Welcome. This is all minus one quick shots. So, folks, the most important news of last week was that Joe Biden, the current United States president, bombed Syria. And I made a video Friday about that, about some reasonings behind that. Potentially more that I've seen has come out about it. And essentially, the idea that we were doing something against, Iranian terrorists or something, or Iraqi or whatever it was, militia, is not proven. It is just a statement out there that the New York Times put out in order to essentially cover for Joe Biden's military actions, which have yet to be fully explained. In any case, maybe they were, and I missed it. But more importantly, over the weekend, the news was that Donald J. Trump was at CPAC. And I actually knew that he was going to be there, and I had heard some rumblings that he was going to talk about running for a third time. Now, this did not happen. He didn't say that. At the end of his speech, he did say, particularly, that perhaps he would come back and win for a third time. In his opinion, he won this last election, and many people's opinion, of course. He made some shots at the GOP about the 17 members who went to impeach him over something he did not obviously do. Especially compared to the language of many of the Democrats over the past 5-6 years about attacking people, about going after them in restaurants, on the street, wherever they're at. We've seen this, right? Obviously, this is despicable behavior, but those folks aren't inciting anything because they have the proper politics. And what are the proper politics, folks? Well, they are anything having to do with leftism. You see, because the GOP, as messed up as it is, will excise you if you are an idiot. And particularly, he called on Romney and Liz Wheeler, called Liz Wheeler a warmonger, and said specifically, used the terminology rhinos. We have a bunch of rhinos in the GOP. So this may inform us that Trump is thinking about running a third time, and on top of that, the idea is that he's going to reform or change the GOP. And this is basically the summation of what he said in his speech. There was nothing definitive about him running a third time, but I think he was trying to play to see how receptive folks were. And there were polls that were done, and he has high approval amongst Republicans, and he, I think, was the number one choice, with Ron DeSantis running in second. Now, I think DeSantis would probably make a better choice strategically, only because he doesn't have all of the Trump minutia kind of behind him per se, and he's governed well in Florida and basically stopped going with the crazy folk out there who are trying you to basically destroy your lives, destroy local economies, make you be ashamed to walk around normally in a very mild pandemic. That, by the way, folks, is endemic, meaning that it is here. It is here to stay. We will always live with this thing ever since it has been introduced into the environment, unless suddenly it randomly goes away. And that's probably not going to happen. And I can tell you that I don't think that we're needing to having to cover up our faces, wearing cloth masks for the rest of eternity, or I shouldn't even say cloth because they're not really even that. Some people wear cloth, but a lot of them are paper masks that don't do much of anything. Look at the Danish study that was conducted in a country, Denmark, that had no mask mandate, where they looked at nearly 5,000 people and divided them into pretty much two even groups of about 2,500. The ones that wore masks every place they went had an infection rate of 1.8%, if my memory serves me correctly, where those who did not wear a mask had an infection rate of 2.1%, a difference of 0.3%, still a very low infection rate amongst all of those folks, and statistically insignificant between the two groups. And of course, I've had someone challenge me on that and say, well, but Bill, what you can't count if they wear the mask in their homes or what they're exactly. You can't account for all of that, right? But the infection rates were extremely low. And we know that all of the science beforehand actually said the same thing. It actually said the same thing until recently. All of a sudden, there was new science. And there hasn't been any new science, folks. There's just been scientists, experts, people who worship science as a cultish type religion and who worship experts telling you what to do. In any case, that is an aside. Back to the Trump CPAC deal. One of the good things with Biden being back into office is seeing how terrible the administration is. And it's just been over a month, and we can see that. We can see that he's already amped up military strikes. Now, if that will continue, it's hard to say. No, not really. We know what happened under Bush and Obama. We're looking at the same kind of administration, folks. We might have things on the exterior surface like gay rights or trans rights or something ridiculous. I guess gay rights is a settled issue now, so it's moving on to trans rights. Once the trans rights is a settled issue, it'll be pedophile rights or something of that extent. I have no doubt. Look, guys, the arguments in DC are between nonsense. They follow the money, and the money comes from special interest and NGOs. The NGOs, like the UN, the World Economic Forum, the World Bank, the Trilateral Commission, the CFR, etc., etc., etc. They follow instruction out of, places like Georgetown, where they have a Jesuit university that follows the papacy, and that very much informs many of the things that goes on in Washington, D.C. Pay attention, guys, because it really, really does. See how many people come out of Georgetown or how many folks speak there. There are connections, of course, with the CIA and FBI with all that as well, and all of the other organizations that have initials like the NSA or ATF and zillion others you don't even know about, like the DSS and whatever else there is that I can't think of off the top of my head right now. The bottom line is that Trump was not a operative of the deep state. He was not part of the establishment. He was an outsider, and therefore he did outside things. He thought of the people, even though he might have enriched some of his, corporate buddies. Hey, man, I'm okay with that. I'll take one, on that side if everyone else gets raised up on the bottom as well. He certainly wasn't perfect, but, Joe Biden is just... He's just a puppet of the New World Order, if you would, right? He's just a puppet of the globalists. So if Trump were to come back, what would happen? Well, I think what we will see is the beginning parts of the actual civil war. We'll see where there might be a division or a fracture. Now, perhaps he could repair it all by his lonesome. He could repair the United States all by himself. But I highly doubt that when big tech, the news media, the entertainment media, the sports media, etc., and academia are all run by leftists, as well as pretty much the Pentagon, all of the three-letter agencies, the majority of the government in general are Democrats, right? They're Democrats in affiliation. They're leftists in affiliation. And the moderates are often Republicans who have nothing to do with liberty or the Constitution or anything else. So I'm very skeptical of this claim. I think that all he can do is stir things up and slow it down. But that stirring of things is what is important. And recall that everyone who voted for Trump right now is a terrorist. There are purity tests within the military. The military is being... no, I'm not on the inside of this, so I could be wrong about this, but essentially the military is being demoralized, and people who would be strong military leaders who would be against this stuff will be weeded out. No, again, I'm not on the inside of this. This is just a speculation, a prediction of mine, but it seems to be the case in the trends of the military over the last decade. So again, that's some stuff that has happened. And a few predictions, basically being, yeah, Trump might actually run. I think he would want to. Trump is going to be quite old, but I don't know if it really matters. But if he does run, or whoever the next candidate is who comes in, this may be the thing that spurs on the real conflict. Of course, there are other counties looking at forming their own states right now. There are some states talking about secession, but we've had this talk off and on for decades now with some areas versus others. There has to be a real true schism, a real true split, and the Democrat Party is very intelligent in using street folk like Antifa or BLM, not directly aligned with them, but knowing that they have voters there. And they, trust me, guys, they will throw them under the bus eventually. But as long as those folks help give them power, they will continue to use them, and they will continue to speak the words in which they wish to hear. But the last thing you need to remember is this. All they really care about in the end is their own power. This is the way. This is the way of the Democrat Party. This is the way of the leftist. The way is the way of power. And it's all about manipulating emotions, and it's all about enriching themselves and essentially putting everyone else on the dole of the state, enslaving you through debt slavery. Now, is Donald Trump a part of this? I don't think so. Will he be able to run a third time and win? Potentially. Will he? I don't know. He's going to be rather old. We'll see how it goes. We will see, because we have 4 years. But I do think this. If he does run, this is going to be sort of the catalyst toward the true destruction of what semblance of the republic is left. And if he becomes the president, again, he's going to fight against the deep state itself. And this will probably be a certain fissure, because I would assume that within the next 4 years, the Biden administration and the Harris administration will fortify any area in which they think might be vulnerable to change, to future changes toward the people. Cannot have that. Must always be the elites, the oligarchy, the hegemony. That is what must remain according to their thinking. So anyways, guys, that's all I got for today. Just some random thoughts. It's kind of what I do. All right. This has been All Minus One Quick Shots, and I wish you all well.